Hello, this is Mrs. Bonham, your friendly AP Psychology teacher. The purpose of this lecture will be to introduce you to the field of psychology as well as give you a history of those people that were influential in developing psychology as a science. First, we will need to define psychology. So it's important that you have this definition down. Psychology is the scientific study of behavior and mental processes. There are three key elements to this definition. One is that it is scientific, two is that it is behavior, and three, that we're looking at mental processes. And so as we look at all three of those components, we're looking at developing psychology as a science that analyzes and researches behavior and mental processes. Now, if you think about mental processes or you think about behavior, those are not always easily researched. And so this psychology has had a difficult time taking off, and really it's become more of a science here in current times with the use of technology and computers as we analyze and can study the brain. So when we're talking about scientific research, number one, make sure that you know that that involves the use of the scientific method. So next chapter, we will discuss the scientific method and practice using that. Secondly, behavior. The key here when we're talking about behavior is that it is observable. So I would highlight that or underline it. Behavior must be observable. So seeing you writing notes, seeing you in class talking to a peer, those are all observable behaviors. Mental processes include those things that are happening in your head. They are cognitive, things that you feel, your thoughts, your dreams. And the thing about mental processes is we can't see them. Only you truly knows what's going on in your head, in your mental processes. Now, those mental processes may affect our behaviors. However, they cannot be seen. Psychology is used as basic research, and I would make sure you have this down here in red. When we talk about basic research, that means it's pure science that aims to increase the scientific knowledge base. And also I would add in here, it's research. The purpose of psychology as a basic research method is simply to find out new information. So maybe I want to gather information on an infant's ability to see color. So my research would simply be to collect data on that, use scientific research, use the scientific method to collect that data. It's simply research. The other half of it is that it can be used as applied research, meaning that the study then, the research, is used to solve some sort of practical problem. So the research is used to make the world a better place. So in my example, if I'm using my research on infants and their ability to see color, if I was using that as an applied research, I may give that information to, let's say, Mattel Toy Company, and they could create toys that were in the colors that infants most react to. So that would be the applied aspect of psychology. For tomorrow, I want you to write down an example of psychology as a basic research and as applied. So think about anything you could research and then think about how you might apply that particular research and bring that with you tomorrow for the lesson. As we look at psychology's roots, psychology really is a new science. So in terms of other sciences like biology and anatomy, psychology is more current. We can trace very, very early beginning of psychology back to the Greeks like Aristotle and Socrates, because they did start to question the mind and the body and the mind-body connection. But really, it wasn't till more recent, early 1900s, that we see psychology to actually begin to develop as an actual science and as a field of study. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at those roots. So first person that we are going to talk about is a man named Wilhelm Wundt. He was German. And one thing I want to make note here is that all of these people, what I have written in red or what I have highlighted in red, you should definitely know. Also, any or all of these people could be seen on an AP exam. So basically what you will need to know is the person, what they did, and what approach they were connected with. And you'll see that as we move forward. So Wilhelm Wundt is known as the founder of modern psychology. So I don't expect you to memorize dates, but just to give you an idea of the time period, we're looking really late to late 1800s to early 1900s. So he's known as the father of psychology. And he's known as that because he opened the first psychology lab. And he opened this lab in Leipzig, Germany in 1879. And this is really where we consider psychology to truly have begun as a science. He used introspection. Make sure you have this word down and know what it is. Introspection is describing your own conscious experience. So basically, recording what you're thinking. And it seems pretty basic, but it wasn't until this time that he introduced this. And also, and this is also key, he was the first to use the scientific method to try to study consciousness. And again, that's where we're putting psychology as an actual science. One thing you want to think about when we look at somebody like Wilhelm Wundt, his ideas, they were revolutionary for that time, but if we look at those today, they look rather primitive. And if you think about trying to study something like the consciousness is not something that is easy to understand, even today with all our science and technology. So imagine at that time period. But he attempted to do it. Now, he sparked interest in the field. And so now this man, E.B. Titchener, went off of Wundt's ideas, and he was what is known as the founder of structuralism. So make sure you have this word structuralism in your notes. So he's a founder of structuralism. That is his approach to psychology. And so what he did was he analyzed the intensity, clarity, and quality of parts of consciousness. And he stressed that psychology was again, science. You see that word over and over again because before this, it wasn't. When you think structure, if you think building up a structure, that's what he was trying to do. He was looking at the bits and pieces that made up consciousness, almost like the little Lego pieces that are building up consciousness. So as I just said, explaining structuralism, it's a conscious experience can be understood by analyzing basic elements of thoughts and sensation. So this is key here, this part right here, analyzing the basic elements of thoughts and sensations. That's what he was trying to do, just the bits and pieces. And like I said, structuralism is very primitive, but what we're going to see with these early approaches to psychology is that they are going to lead to more advanced theories and approaches in the field. Here you will see a timeline that aligns structuralism with some events in history, so you kind of see where those fall. Next, I want to look at Gestalts, and Gestalt psychology emphasizes seeing the world as a whole. So Gestalt means whole pattern, putting it into a whole. And that's how the brain interprets information. Gestalts believed that we don't see the world in bits and pieces. Okay, so when I look at a desk per se, I don't see a table and a chair and legs and a basket, I see a desk.